from this, right? Every time we have a near miss or close call, it's an opportunity to learn and think about how can we, because it's almost like a gift, if you will. It's not a gift that Art fell, but it's a gift that Art had the courage to bring that forward and share that, to report it, and it's sort of our challenge and opportunity to what can we do to learn from that, and as we're thinking about going forward with education, awareness, and the like. So, and you know, again, when we're doing that, it's all about trying to connect with the why behind this. It's not just the rule, it's not just the procedure that's out there, but trying to connect with people and that understanding of why are we doing this, right? It's to prevent you or others from getting hurt, and trying to, you know, every time we have an engagement with folks in our community, it's not just here's what the law is or here's what the regulation is, it's why that's there and what that means to you, right? And to raise that awareness. So, okay, so let's go into the next piece with reports from the town, police, and the social outreach. Terry, is there anything from your view? I didn't get a chance to connect with you before, but. Not anything here. So okay. Okay, great, thank you. Sergeant?
Yep. Happy to report here, since our last meeting in September, the police department investigated 4 motor vehicle collisions. Very, very minor. There's one involving a bicycle. It was along the 200 block of Hollywood Street, past the fire department going into town. The bicyclist could not operate the little road humps that you see there on the shoulder of the roadway with construction. I think it was a little negligent. Wasn't there just based on the police report and speaking to the officer. It was a little erratic movement and caused him to fall off when the flagger was waving him through. That's the only bicycle accident that we had since September, which I'm happy to report. Next thing, October 31st, I spoke with Lauren Weaver from the Chamber of Commerce. Since we last had our meeting in September, I know it was very important to start talking about future initiatives for the spring. The big thing that I wanted to promote, which I have been involved in, is the J1 Foreign Student Safety Seminar. I sound like a broken record. However, speaking to Sea Colony is getting me absolutely nowhere. I've emailed. The last person I was forwarded to talk to was the manager of the security, because they employ the most J1 students of Sea Colony. Sent him an email mid-October, have not heard anything back. Just basically saying the town's trying to reach out for a student safety seminar. We used to be welcomed down there pre-COVID when they were Resort Quest. We have not been invited. Did we do something wrong? And would you be willing to send your employees to the town of Bethany if we host our own? No response. I spoke to Station 70, Chief Phil Bracken. He is the EMS chief next door. I asked him if he's been down there, maybe something the police department did, or if they went with another police department. I was very unsure about that. He has not been invited down there either. So as I said before, during 2020, Resort Quest was purchased by Vacasa. I don't know if it's a decision by Vacasa to not host that anymore, which it may be, or the student population, the J1s that they're hosting and employing, are not fond of police, which is, Diane, you saw it when we were out there on the road. The police they're a different breed in different countries. So I don't know the reason. However, when I spoke to Phil Bracken next door, I asked him if the town, us, was going to promote an event, if they would like to participate with us as a first responder on the medical side, on what to do if you're involved in an injury, and brief them with the fire and EMT side in the coastal area. I would then branch out to PNC Bank, who was invited before, some other local banks in the area, just to keep it, pretty much take their idea that we were involved in, which I thought was very successful, not make it our own, but just bring it back to life. Mm-hmm. So he told me that Lauren Weaver I'm pretty sure that we've dealt with numerous times. Great person down there. She does a great job with the chamber. She informed me that they are hosting their own J1 student seminar. So I kind of complained to her and say, hey, we used to be involved in this. I loved it. It was a great thing for the police department to interact nonchalantly with the J1 students, and it was great feedback that we got from the students with us. So she said she's going to try to hold their own in April of 2024 next year. She has a very large, and this is like Selbyville all the way to Millville, incorporating all towns, all J1 students. I didn't know if that's something that we wanted to get involved in and kind of join them or start our own. I will tell you, if we do start our own, the police department is 100%, I'm willing to do all the work. I think it's a great event. The event we did down at St. Martha's was in July. Great event also. However, I think that's 3 months too late because these kids get here in April and May. They should know the laws when they get here. If I could meet them at the airport and familiarize them with anything, I could do that. But I think if the town wants to do our own, we could either, like I said, piggyback, and this is for further discussion, we could piggyback off the Chamber of Commerce and join them, or we do our own. I know Station 70, the fire department next door, is willing to help out. They're all about it. They have a few key members in the community that have been involved, that have great interaction with J1 students. They host a lot of them and room a lot of them. We could go door to door to the businesses in town, which the Chamber of Commerce actually has a list, she said, of who employs J1 students. I was going to actually put out on our social media handles 10 days ago to invite hosts, families that host J1 students or those that employ them, if the town of Bethany, just to see if we can get some feedback, if the town of Bethany put this event on early spring, very early summer, we could do 2 or 3 of them if we had enough participation to get the ball rolling. I didn't want to do that decision without speaking to you guys. I think after speaking to Lauren, I didn't want to step on her toes. I just said the town of Bethany, we have a lot of negative interaction with J1 students. I think I can't stress enough how many accidents we investigated that involved Vacasa-specific employees. I think it'd be beneficial for us to put on our own event. I can set it up and do it, take the ball. This committee can go to restaurants. I can get a list and see if people want to send their employees. I don't know if that's something we want to talk about in the future, but like I said, the choice is either with us right now for this committee to join and piggyback off the chamber or start our own. I was thinking maybe hosting something, depending on the weather, up in the boardwalk and doing like a very, very nonchalant, educational, bike safety, victimization seminar for them at 45 minutes max, hand out bike lights. We could hold it in this room, we could hold it in the library. Station 70 said they're more than welcoming to hold it in their conference room upstairs. So I think we have many options that we can go through. Or like I said, we could just piggyback off the Chamber of Commerce and join their coalition in that. That's all I have. I know it's a big topic of discussion. I think getting that ball rolling, if we choose to do it on our own, I'm willing to do 95% of the work to get this going.
Can't we do both? Can't we just piggyback and still hold our own? Like,
Yeah.
so conceivably, if the chamber has it in Fenwick, people from Sea Colony aren't going to go.
Right.
So I don't see why we don't do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't want to say, the big thing I asked her, I said, hey, can I put this on our social media? I didn't want her to, I don't want to be challenging the Chamber of Commerce and saying, well, we're going to hold one too and we're going to do it better. I didn't want to come off that way. So I just said, we'll leave it up to the committee to decide whether or not the town of Bethany hosts their own rather than join them. Absolutely, we could do both, yeah.
Earl?
I would just say, from experience, if you want J1 students to attend, somehow, some way, you've got to have some food.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, just say it.
yeah. I think we can manage that.
Yeah.
We
So,
manage
Diane, any?
No, I agree.
Yeah. And I agree. One, thank you, Sergeant, for your passion and energy and commitment. That really comes across pretty strongly. And I agree. Again, this is not a who does it. If we both do it, if there's a little bit of overlap, that's great. If there's no overlap, that's great. But if we can get a couple people and raise their awareness and have them do things differently, then it's a success. right? And so we're actually going to, we'll come back and when we talk about sort of action plans, that's actually a specific item on that, Sergeant. So let's come back and pick it up there too, okay? Great. Thank you, sir. And Julie is actually upstairs in a meeting of the Cultural Affairs and History, which is really a great group going on too. They're really some amazing stuff. But she just wanted to share quickly, she had actually was able to attend a tourism summit recently, and part of the bring back from that was, we've heard this before, but she highlighted that Delaware is spending, it looks like $4.5 billion in road improvements in the next 5 years. A lot of that to the influx of people, population, and the like. And they're really focusing on bike and pedestrian efforts, so there's really a significant opportunity to dial into that and have our voice heard, get their input. So that was really part of her feedback, and I know Teresa had mentioned the same thing as part of that, so that would be something we'd want to look into. So that was Julie's feedback. Okay? So the next piece is around really around new committee members for town council. And actually, as you know how I work, I'm actually we'll add another burger dot here. Most importantly, since we met last, this lady sitting next to me, Teresa Kale, was elected to town council. And I want to give her a round of applause for that. And she's been involved with this Pedestrian Bicycle Safety Committee really since its founding. And so since she's already committed part of this, I've asked, and Teresa was most willing to agree that we'll actually co-chair. Hey, Julie, how you doing? We'll co-chair the committee going forward. And it would really be my honor to share that with her. And we have a lot on our plates, and it would really, I think, be helpful in that regard.
Yes,
so,
thank you.
Teresa?
I don't have anything else to say, but thank you. I appreciate the honor.
Okay, great. So in addition to that, we also have 2 new members that will be hopefully joining us. So we have to go to the town council first to get their approval. That'll happen in November, next week. And we'll have 2 new members joining us at that point. And let me just leave it at that for right now until we officially do that. But I think that's all part of the idea that there's a lot going on in this committee, this effort, right? And when we have people that raise their hand and want to be part of that and show that same passion and energy, that's great. That'll actually take our numbers up to 9, which is sort of the limit we're at right now. So that's actually perfect. But we're not going to let Julie and Sergeant Foley go anywhere. So however we count this, they're part of us. So, Mayor?
It's the limit because that's the number of seats.
Okay. So that's that. Julie, I just shared before you came in, and I know you were up in the Cultural Affairs meeting. I sort of shared some of a highlight of your summary. Anything you want to add that you sent to me about the tourism and the commitment that Delaware is making to pedestrian safety?
No, just one more thing.
Julie, you might want to just go, just in case people can hear you better. Thank you. Or actually, you could come up front if you want to, whatever best.
This works, right?
Okay.
Everybody hear me? Okay. It was a Tourism Connect PR and Marketing Summit, and there was a big emphasis on the influx of people that are here now. And one of the panels included the ferry. And they noticed there were a lot of more bicycles on the ferry. So there is a conscious effort to address the situation with walkers and bikers because it's just multiplying so rapidly. So that was my big takeaway from that I wanted to share.
Okay, great. Thank you, Julie. And for those of you who know, Julie has a great network of her co-collaborators, if you will, that all are about connecting with the community, bringing a lot of really great events to us, but also a more practical side, helping us get the message out. So Julie, again, thank you for everything you do in that regard, and we're going to need all your help and expertise going forward, so that's great. All right, so the next piece I want to speak to is really just our discussion for our action plan. That's really what I'd like to spend the remaining part of our time. Sergeant Foley already highlighted one of them, which is great. But what I'd like to do is just take us back. Is that? I'm sorry, if you just advance it, that's okay. It's just the clicker doesn't seem to be working. Sorry. Great. So this is just a quick recap. As you recall, about July or August, as we were working through feverishly some of the efforts we'd put in place with the whole wave rollout and initiatives, we started to say, okay, this is great, but we also want to start, we got to think down the road. We got to think about 2024 and the like. So we did, as we were still rolling out and completing some of the things we were working on this past year. Remember Tim and the spreadsheet that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? That was because of all the effort that went in, both community and a lot of the people in this dais that were rolling that out. But we also stepped back a little bit and started to think about what's to come, and devoted some time to that. So that was sort of midsummer. We sort of just teed it up, right? This was literally started with brainstorming. Everything was on the table. Infrastructure, Julie spoke to that. Anything we can do from data analysis, new initiatives, also understanding what's worked for us that we want to continue. And Sergeant Foley spoke to one of those already. So that's just sort of how we teed this up. We got a lot of input from our team, as well as quite a bit of activity, or quite a bit of input from the community members that attended or sent us input. Carl and Dan sort of went through sort of a summary of trying to categorize that for us a little bit into structural efforts, town regulation, and sort of awareness programs, right? Just broad categories. Now, the key thing I want to highlight here is we're not losing any of these. We're probably going to come back and revisit these, but what we try to do is say, this is a lot of the input we've gotten, right? We like to work on all of them, but we also need to really focus where we think we can have the greatest impact. So what the team worked at, this was in our September meeting, we came up basically with 6 areas, okay? One was around sort of walking, biking, situational awareness initiatives. That's a lot of words to talk about how do we connect with people, right? Make a difference. So the things we were talking about, you know, that Diane and Sergeant Foley did with connecting with the community on a couple of the stops, just conversations with people, all the rollout with Wave, right? With taking that video and actually sharing it, right? All that was part of that. There's an additional, another one came out with the idea, do we need additional rapid fire flashing beacons? I think that's the first time in my life I've actually been able to say that with one swoop, so might not happen again. But what do we need any additional ones on Route 1? We've talked about at least one. The whole J1 student orientation program seminar, Sergeant Foley, that you spoke to. We also talked about this idea of maybe a March workshop, right, where we sort of host something for all the community, for all the surrounding communities, where we really try to come together, again, thinking of trying to get ahead of the upcoming season and talk about what are our plans, what are our initiatives, what's working, what are other communities working on, how can we collaborate, how can we share. So that's sort of an event situation. Utilizing all the different forms of communication we have, like the newsletter's been reactivated, reborn, which I think's gotten a lot of great reviews from the community. Great applause to the town for all the work's done around it. We've also started to build out this beach, that Bethany Beach app. That can be a source for people to get information. And then the last one was sort of this sort of umbrella around this engagement opportunities with associations, HOAs and the like. We've done a number of those last year where we literally went to different communities, shared with them what we're working on, getting their input, solicit their involvement. So those were the sort of the 6 areas that came out of, again, our thinking, our brainstorming, as well as input from the community. So the next part we took, and this was since the last meeting, okay, since we met in September, I took a shot at building this out a little bit more. So if anyone's name who's up here, which everyone's name is up here, there's no rhyme or reason other than trying to balance things a little bit and also trying to get people aligned with some of the things that they seem like they had a little bit of more interest around. That's all. This is just a start point. We can change this. We don't even have to change it now. But the point is, we wanted to try to, given all the things we have on the agenda, is try to divide and conquer a little bit. Get teams working on things in between sessions so that it's not dependent on us just coming together. We'll do work throughout the time frame so that when we can start rolling these out. And actually, we'll have 2 new members hopefully joining us for the next iteration of this. So I just wanted to, again, I haven't had any chance to get feedback from the committee on that yet. I don't think I heard anything, unless I missed an email over the last couple of weeks, and that is very possible, but I don't think I did. Does that make sense just as a start point in terms of our breaking things up or dividing things? Again, it doesn't mean only these people are going to work on it, really. They're just really sort of the focal points for our whole team to help provide status updates, where we are, what we can do to help them and others involved. So is there any upgrades or thoughts or just from first? I think you all have seen this before, right? And I just haven't seen any comment. So I was sort of taking that to be not too far off, but
No news is good news?
no news is good news. I like no news is good news. I can be a bad assumption, though.
I like that I knew in advance this time.
Yeah, how about that? You mean you don't like just knowing that you're going to be, you and David are going to be our parade leaders?
I think we did a good job.
You did an awesome job. Sergeant, you had your hand up, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I just got 2 things I mentioned in the past that can check off the situational awareness initiatives as well as the community engagement. Like me and Diane completed in the summertime, standing on the side of the road didn't really get much. I don't really feel like it worked as well as we thought it would. Came up with the idea of maybe jumping on a trolley and doing that. So we kind of get people where they're sitting and just trap them for a little bit and just discuss, things and what the town can do better. I think that might be a good idea. We can check off 2 boxes. The other one was setting up like a library booth. A lot of people coming and going. Both things I mentioned have air conditioning. If you guys can read between the lines, I think it was 119 degrees when Diane and I were out there. I just think catching people where they're out and about and put the idea of them coming to us would be beneficial rather than stopping them from going from point A to the east side of town. I feel like people don't really like that. Bike checkpoints, you've seen, we stop people, we flag them down, we kind of motion for them, and they just ride right on. So as a police officer, standing there and stopping people and interrupting their freedom isn't really what I want to do, but if we set up a booth and welcome people in air conditioning, it might be a little bit more beneficial. Trolley, I think, would be great. Great. And then a library booth, maybe in the foyer of the library, and they'll be more than welcoming to have us over there, set up a table, just to engage people while they're there about ideas that we have or new ideas that we can get from them. Right. But I think that can check off the first one and the 6th one.
Okay, so one thing I heard, Sergeant Foley, is that I think you were volunteering to be on that first one.
Whatever you need. You say jump, I say how high.
That's actually the kind of thing we're looking for, is just to get where people have that interest, that connection point, and I think that's a really good one. Diane, probably that would be a good one area for you too. I'm going to add Diane up there as well. No, because this is not a one-size-fits-all, right? I firmly believe, and this is just from years of experience in this, it's about engaging people. We can do things in sort of planned booths, but it's also about connecting with people right when they're getting ready to cross the street and they've got their family together. right? To help them get across, to explain what it is, what we're trying to do, what to be aware of, but to talk about the why, right? It's not for us to enforce something, it's to raise awareness so that next time they, if it just is, how do you use the beacon, for example, right? That kind of conversation. It's not just not walk across, it's not just hit the beacon and run into the traffic assuming everyone's gonna stop. It's not just assuming it's gonna last long when you get on it's talking that through with people in a way that shows care, concern, dignity, respect, and that we care and we want you to be able to do it, and then they share with their kids, right? And then maybe, guess what? We can hand out some T-shirts that we've been storing for a little while. I know I love saying we when it's really somebody else, but Joy, go ahead. If you could just, yeah.
I just had a thought. What if we did a survey with all the points that we're trying to get across, or just in general, when you ride your bike, what do you do? What side of the road do you ride on? And then we can collect information from that and analyze and see what our first approach should be.
Okay. So this is, what I'd encourage, just for our sort of a path forward is like for that first one, and say we add Diane and Sergeant Foley, if you all could take a first step offline and maybe frame this out a little bit, right? What are and some of it's building on what we did before, the trolley, the kind of and what that might look like. And then when we come back together at our next meeting, we'll sort of have, we'll try to make some progress on it. What do we need to do next? What's the timing? And then we'll factor that into our plan and put that together. And it's just really just trying to divide and conquer a little bit. It's particularly in this interim few months where we're planning for the next season, really. And Sergeant Foley, what something you highlighted that I think was really spot on, right? It's great to have that engagement that we did with St. Martha's before. I thought that was great, right? But that was in July, right? So I would love to have that opportunity again to talk and engage, right? But we also need to do something before that, when people start arriving and they start. So it's that. This is really just trying to be proactive and get our planning together so that we can, when the season starts rolling around and people start showing up, have done some of our initial planning. So for the next one, the RFFBs on Route 1, I think just Teresa and I, if we can take the lead on that. Sure. With where that is with council and if anyone else wants to be involved with that. But that's one that's right, obviously, in our
Sure.
bandwidth that we can deal with pretty directly. Carl, you're looking like you.
I was going to say, this is a totally different subject, but one of the problems I see for both, for mostly bicyclists is when people are walking with traffic, especially on Pennsylvania Avenue, there's no situational awareness whatsoever. And it's not so bad in the winter, because if you're a bicyclist, you've got to get in the street to pass them. But in the summer, this is a real consideration. Also, people pay to park, they're facing north or they're facing south. They're looking for the quickest way to get to the beach, and they're going to go to wherever street they want to go. A little bit easier north of Garfield, because you've got bike lanes both ways, but it's particularly noticeable, I think, south of Garfield Parkway. And then on Atlantic, when you're south of Garfield Parkway, you've got the wide area there for bicyclists and pedestrians, but pedestrians always seem to gravitate into the bike lanes.
Right.
And even if they see you coming, they don't always get over. You'll be forced into the street.
Right.
So,
thank you, Carl. The whole issue, and we had a lot of conversation about this before this around, and we have some signage up already, but around walking, what's the proper side to walk on, right? That would all be walking and biking situations. That's a pretty big topic, right? That's all these items that we have bucket listed, we've engaged with people that we can come back and we want to try to build that out. So, again, really and again, I think part of that is even thinking about the wave 2, we've talked about it, wave 2.0. Do we want to create a potentially a new video, right? Well, the ones we have now are great. We want to use those again, but maybe something specifically on, how to walk safely and then there might be some signage issues associated with that, sort of from a infrastructure perspective. But, yeah. So that first one's got a lot of meat to it, really, right? But it really will touch the other ones. The student orientation seminar, obviously Sergeant Foley, a lot of interest in that. And we talked about, I think we had agreement that let's go ahead and push to have ours and get it done when it is. And if the other, this isn't to compete with anybody, just say more's better here, right? And the next one is around the workshop that and again, the March is just, I think what we sort of pigeonholed a little bit the last meeting was just to sort of reach out and see if we can bring our fellow communities together. We'll host it potentially here and have them share best practices and learn. It doesn't have to be overly formal, but we'll set up a sort of framework of what we would like folks to do, come and share, and then also work on maybe 1 or 2 guest speakers that would be additive to that process and really make it a community, very wide community kind of effort. So, and we've seen some nice examples of that already being done. So, the next one is around the beach app and newsletter. So Julie plays a key role in that. Carl and Dan. And then the last one are, again, around the engagement, but again, the reaching out to the various communities. We've done a couple, we did, I think 3 or 4 last year, and again, reaching out and trying to get those lined up and do them again during their community meetings or special meetings. So, does that seem like a good, for everybody, again, looking at this again, talking it through? Again, trying to go all the way back from that original list where we started to brainstorm, we narrowed it down, and we came up with these focus areas. Again, just to give us some bandwidth to work within over the next few months as we start planning. Does that make sense with everybody on the committee?
It does.
Okay. For the community that's here, any thoughts, suggestions? Bill, you've got a look on your face like he's going to the microphone. I couldn't. and hey, Bill, by the way, I know you at the beginning of last year shared with us, you and Ann put together it was like 5 bullet points that we tried to incorporate in this, right? I mean, so.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. So I'm Bill Bergfeld, 414 Gibson. I don't like to give other people work, but I think the primary place to get in touch with people as they are waiting for the programs to begin on the boardwalk. Yeah. We obviously have 700, 800 people sitting there, sometimes 1,000.
Yep.
If you want a public service announcement, and I can see several ways to do that. Mickey, you can do a skit. Fall down walking or whatever, and make it kind of funny, or you can give a short 90-second or 2-minute rundown. Okay, we've got all these flashing lights here. People have seen them. Here's how we work them, and here's how we do it. And maybe it's Sergeant Foley that does it, but maybe it's a group of people that does it too.
Yep.
Just something that would keep their interest, because they're sitting there. People are sitting there for 15, 20 minutes.
Yep.
And so that'd be a great time, I think, to give them. I mean, we would do it on Thursday nights now, so that gets that information before they have the busy weekend, which we all know gets crazy Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yep.
So just a suggestion.
No, I think, and so that, I think, Bill, thank you. That's a great upgrade. I think that's where, Julie was great with getting us started with incorporating the promo the videos, like in the movie nights and the like, right? So there's maybe an opportunity to do that. But again, just, I think, to Bill's point, just raise the awareness around, look, we want you to be here. We want you to have fun. We want you to be safe. But we all need to be part and parcel to this. It's not pointing fingers. It's about how can we help each other. Here's some of the efforts we have going on. Raise one or two things. It's got to be quick. It's got to be, right, people. But if we can do that in a way that just gets people's attention, right? Maybe there's something they can take when they walk away, or if we're just hanging out after concert, somebody comes up and talks to one of us. That's a success, because that's an opportunity to help change people's thinking or raise their awareness or get their ideas or input. So, thank you, Bill. Okay. Good. So what we'll do is, again, anyone have any thoughts, input? I know a couple of us couldn't be here today because of work commitments, but we can tweak and change this as we go, but at least I want to have our action plan as we walk out of here and start, making the kind of efforts we want. So if you could go to for some reason, this just the next chart, please. And it really gets to future, I think it's the next one around future meeting dates. Yeah, thank you. So this is probably this is news since you saw this last. I just took 3 dates, again, trying to think ahead to almost a month apart, staying away from December because of obviously other reasons. And but if we could, thought was just to try to block these out for an hour meeting at 10 a.m. here. I guess I did not double check with that we have any overlap with Christine and the like. So we can tweak this, but it's really just trying to get about a month out of that we can show progress of where we are, where we can help each other, and keep the ball rolling. Okay? So when we talk about our notes, we'll certainly, we can tweak this and change it, but I just wanted to get a couple dates out there, roughly a month apart. Sergeant, please.
If you want, I spoke to Julie about it last week. We can put the idea out for this safety seminar. You can tell I'm really hard on this idea. We could put the idea out. When I spoke to Lauren Weaver from the chamber, I said, with social media, you tag each other, you add their agency to your post, and it kind of, disseminates to a bigger crowd. We could post something on the town. Julie can do it on the event side, and I can do it on the town side for a potential seminar here, and just get community feedback of who would want to come and if it's a good idea or if it's a waste of time. And you can kind of see the people in the comments kind of regulate the way post goes.
Right.
I think it might be a good thing to get some girth for the next meeting, so we can have certain people, we could have 116 people willing to come to it, just to have a better foundation for that. We can get that out in the next couple weeks or so.
Cool. So let me just speak to that a little bit, because against that, Sergeant, I think you're right on. The idea here is really trying to, for each one of us on our if you go back one, I'm sorry, I got it now? Okay, got it. If we can think about these blocks of work, right? And this isn't all-encompassing. We're just trying to get the vast majority. But if each one of us and our teams can do some work offline, frame it out to whatever degree, and then we'll come forward and talk about it at our next meeting where we are. But it doesn't preclude us doing work in between and sharing. We have each other's emails. We have some thoughts, ideas, some areas we want to move in. Or need input in between sessions, that's great. Let's try to utilize our time in between sessions so we really come here and use it more as a sort of a strategic planning rather than as more on the tactical side. Does that make sense, Sergeant, what you were speaking to? Okay, great. It's almost 12, so I think we've accomplished this in doing it in an hour. So I have, do we have a move to adjourn?
I so move.
Okay, second. Carl, thank you. We okay?
Yep.
All right,
Adjourn.
great. Thanks, everyone. Again, thank you for those folks who are joining us in the community for your input, those who are online. If you have thoughts or input, please share with us. We'd love to hear that, and we will hope everyone has a great upcoming Thanksgiving holiday with your family, friends.
I was just looking, I know I
Thank
got
you.
a thing to
Will, thank you.
check